All right, you guys, welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Galactic Explorers with your two favorite channelers, myself, Daniela, and the lovely, as always, Miss Dallas. Today, we are bringing you, as always, I should say, like today, I'm going to tell you about the topics. We already know what the topic is for today, but we bring you the podcast itself, brings you all kinds of topics from the everyday, mundane to the scientific and spiritual from a galactic perspective. And there you go, as I kind of spilled the beans earlier, is that we already do have a topic that we'd like to share with y'all that's been coming forward. Another one that's been coming forward for us. And that has to do with the fears that most people have around the idea of channeling. Not just the process itself, in what most people think that you have to become in a state of possessed to be channeling, right? So there's fear on that level, but then also what's been expressed by some of my academy students recently is actually the fear of what you're going to run into while you're opening yourself up to channeling. So that was something that, since both of us are also on and in the midst of a evolving channeling journey, we thought we might speak a few words on it from our perspective and what we found in our experiences, to hopefully help you guys be able to maybe take that step back and be able to shift your perspective about kind of not only what it is, the mechanism itself, what's actually happening, but then what you'll run into, what you do when you run into it, if you do when you run into it, if you run into it, like all kinds of things like that, because that's been coming forward, and we don't want those kind of things to be keeping people from opening themselves up to like all of the wonderful experiences and learning and growth that you can gain by being able to interact with your higher self, your guides, other versions of you, all the rest of it.
Yeah, lots of energy out there, and they're just going to come by and say hi in their own little way. Oh, hey, buddy.
Well, hey guys, what's going on?
So have have you had any experiences where you have been caught off guard?
Yes, of course.
What did you do?
Uh, well, let's see. It's actually interesting. It's like much like your husband was talking about off camera before we get started. The whole thing with the paralysis. So that used to happen to
Mm-hmm.
me fairly often when I was a
Mm-hmm.
teenager. Super freaky when it happens because you feel like you're trapped in your body and you can't breathe and you can't open your eyes and you just, it's fucking weird. There are various reasons as to why that can be happening, but because it is such a what we would consider an unnatural state to consciously be in physically, it could be pretty scary. So I used to have those, and even at the time, I wasn't quite sure what the heck they were. I just knew that they were happening, and I knew that it was something to do with the fact that I was so spiritually connected. Could see ghosts and things, like all that stuff from a young age. So I knew it has something to do with something. But,
But
but
what?
but like a 15-year-old in the 90s, had other concerns. Like
Right.
as much like 15-year-olds in the 2000s now do as well. So I wasn't really thinking about it. But later on, maybe about, I want to say earlier this year, I had a similar experience that finally happened to me again. It had been years since I'd gone through it. And I was laying there doing a meditation, reaching out, channeling thing, preparatory channeling meditation, and there's a billion. But I was doing one of those, laying back, and then all of a sudden I felt that weight come into my field again. Like it used, like you wake up and you feel like there's a weight on you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh, fuck. I literally was like, oh, fuck, here we go again, but I'm like, but I'm conscious this time. So I'm literally going to slip into this while I'm conscious. Jesus Christ. And I literally started to freak out for half a second. And then I had to remind myself, I was like, doesn't have to necessarily be negative. What I'm perceiving may not actually be negative in any way. It may just literally be the metaphor that comes to mind is the really loud sonic boom that happens when we go into faster than sound. When our airplanes go bah and they go faster than sound, but it like creates a disruption in the reality ripple, and it is represented by that large sound. So if you didn't know what that sound was, you'd be fucking freaked out if you heard it.
Right.
But if you know what it is, like if you can understand and, like figure out what it is. So I sat with it. I said, okay, well, whatever this is, what is it? And before I could even get the thought out, which of course is not out, but thinking it, literally came the answer. We are presenting ourselves into your energy field so that you will get used to us. What? What? Right. That's what they said, is like, we are more or less physically, non-physically. So like a few dimensional frequencies off. So like they could very well materialize right then and there if it wouldn't have sent my body into full on shock. It's like, we are very close to you and we are putting ourselves in your field because it is part of your request to open up. So in order for you to open up and to not be afraid of the energy shift, the difference and how it feels, we are slowly presenting ourselves more and more to you, because it had initially started in dreams and stuff, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yes, most of that stuff that occurred to you as a teenager was this, versions of this, various ones, and not necessarily us, but other entities that would come into your field to interact with you. I'm like, oh, so it's not a bad thing. I'm like, no. So that was most recently one of those kinds of experiences where it could have been, it took me totally off guard, because I was just, laying there, just like, meditating and visualizing and, hanging out and being cool. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I can't open my eyes. I can barely breathe. It feels like there's a weighted blanket on me. What the fuck is this? What the actual fuck is this? Right? But if I hadn't calmed myself down, it could have probably went off the rails, because my field might have not accepted the difference.
Right.
But that goes to show in some of these cases that what people are going through in these initial stages of reawakening or re-remembering to consciously channel, that there are going to be times where you have to adjust. It's literally an energy adjustment.
Right.
And it may seem a little extreme from our physical point of view, but it's not actually. It just has to do with like what we've been taught to perceive about what those things are.
Right. Yeah.
Because much like you were saying, was it off camera? I think it was off camera just now. But that the whole thing, it's like, oh, we're worried about what we're going to run into. Like, we're going to run into demons and stuff. And it's like, when it's not really a demon, it's just like a little thing.
Getting
But that because we're unfamiliar with its energy or the way that it tries to reach out or whatever, that we have been trained to put a negative demonic connotation on things for the most part in the Western world, because that's, well, what we got taught.
Right. And then in our energy fields, right? I think we were talking about, it's not knowing your own field and then having something come into it that's totally different. Like you had those entities, it was totally different. It caught you off guard. right? And you froze, but you took a moment. You go, okay. And you asked questions.
Yep.
And you were able to be in a space with clarity than in fear.
Right. And then it all settled. And what the interesting thing is that the weight lifted a bit. The second I stopped freaking out,
Right.
actually asked the question, it's like, okay, what's going on here? Is there somebody here? And they went, yes, actually there is. We are presenting ourselves into your energy field, as a matter of fact. And I was like, ew.
Yeah.
And the second I was like, ew, it literally like lifted up. It was still there. Like I could still feel a difference in the density around me, but it wasn't so impressive anymore.
Right.
And I don't recall if I had consciously asked them to lighten it up or if I'd subconsciously done so.
Well, they probably
they'll respond.
Right. And if you were more aware and know, oh, this is not what I think it is, there was a more ease, so your body released in that tension too.
True.
Where probably you were able to feel it and be like, oh, I can let this into my field instead of
right trying to
everything your body. So it's amazing how when you get to know your body and you're aware of your body and your energy body, you can control that.
Right.
It's all about control and release, right? I can release this.
Yeah. And allowing. There's a whole thing about, allowing. Maybe we ought to do another podcast on what allowing actually means.
Yeah.
But as far as that goes, having one of those weird caught off guard experiences that could have played on previous fears of previous experiences that I'd had in life and previous definitions. But because we're on this journey and I've been doing my inner work and all, like all the other ways I can toot my horn about it, but it's like, if there hadn't been that preparatory time in between when I was in high school and now, would I have seen it the same or would I have seen it differently if I hadn't gone through all of that before to get to that point where it was happening again, and then to be able to receive it from another perspective, knowing that there was it wasn't necessary to have the fear involved.
Right. Well, resistance. You are in a different state of resistance.
Yep.
Where you could let it go and accept it in a sort way and feel, okay, it's just another energy that's here, making their self-aware because I asked.
Right.
And I received.
Right. Yeah, I'm getting what I asked for.
That's the part that I love, is when you ask for something and it comes, but it doesn't come the way you think it comes.
Ew, why would it? There's no fun in that.
It makes you go, okay, game on.
Right, game on. Yeah, game on.
Okay, here we go.
Right. So what about you? Because I know you've had some very interesting experiences that, well, pick one that happened probably within the last 6 months, eh? But it's like that, right? That could have been one of those moments that you could have given into the fear of the moment, but instead did not, and then had the positive come out of it. So that that kind of experience for them.
I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I might have. I was probably 7 years ago when I started down this path, and I was meditating more and channeling more, and I was opening myself up more. And it wasn't even a state of channeling. I walked into my bedroom and I had this presence of a dog demon thing. Like the only thing that I could say to what it looked like, because remember the first movie in Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
The big dog demon, the big one.
Oh, yeah.
I walked in and it was like right there. And I was
Oh
like,
man, that's gonna freak
oh,
anybody out.
what did I, right? But it was like, I'm here for you. I'm supporting you. And it was like, oh, you can come in different forms and ways and shapes. Like it was real quick to go, I'm here for you. And I was like, oh, okay. Right. And it was like this guard dog that I could have and I could call in when I was channeling and learning to like open myself in different ways. That was like,
Right, you had given yourself a permission slip in the form of like an entity that you called in to give you assistance.
yeah. And
You
it
can
caught
totally
me
do.
off and I was freaked out and I was like, but I let myself go up,
Right.
filled it. It was good. I could tell the intention was right on. Okay, come on over, boy. Let's go, And it was like,
Good boy.
totally treated him that way. And it was so funny, but he looked like this, demonic black figure with these red eyes and the big horns. And it was like, what the fuck is that? Like, what did I
What is this in my
do?
room? Yeah.
But it was okay. So that's the one thing that stuck out, but I was caught off guard and frozen for a split second. But that split second was, I listened, I could hear it. And instead of not trusting myself on it, I trusted myself on it and go, okay, he's here for me to support me. And I can support him by giving him space and we can move forward with whatever, and he doesn't come
Right.
around anymore because he served its purpose.
Right. You don't need him.
Right. So he doesn't come anymore. And it's like, okay. And I remember like a very faint, like, oh, he's not around anymore. It's like, oh, thanks for being there for me.
Right.
So that's the one that sticks out for right now.
Yeah, right.
Of being able
A good
to
one. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good one.
to know that even your guides can look deceiving and have that big energy where it catches you off guard. But if you just take a deep breath,
Yep.
listen,
Yep.
feel that, fill your fields and go, okay, I know.
Right. So
Where I'm at.
speaking to that, because you mentioned a really good point that I think is freaking crucial when it comes to interpreting what you're channeling
Mm-hmm.
and what people are afraid of to attack, like to be channeling. Because most people that I've spoken to, when either when they're starting to channel, they'll ask this, a version of this, or if you're trying to tell somebody that you're a channeler, that's a muggle, I guess we'll call them.
Yeah.
A mundane. They both sound so fucking derogatory at this point. A normal person, you call them, they always ask a version of this question too. And it's, well, don't you worry about running into demons? Don't you worry about who you're going to run into? Don't you worry about the information that you're going to get? Don't you worry like that something's going to attach itself to you? Or then the students will go, well, it's like, I don't know, like what I'm going to reach out to. I don't know what's going to try and reach out to me. So, I mean, is this the Ouija board all over again? Like, what is this, And you made a really good point, is that anytime any of these interactions happen, regardless of whether it's energetic, you're getting psychic download links, you're getting voices in your head, like however, pictures, audio, whatever. If you're not getting a good feeling from it, like if you took that second to take a breath,
Mm-hmm.
reassess yourself, be like, okay, hold on, let me cool my fucking jets here for a second. And my autonomic response fight or flight system that's
Mm-hmm.
built into the human body, let me cool that down for a second and think and feel, okay, does it feel uplifting? Like you said, even though the dog looked really fucking scary, when you went to actually go near its field, in a sense, investigate, it had the complete opposite energetic from what you would have assumed based on what it looked like.
Right.
You would have thought it wasn't even.
Oh, absolutely.
And that would have come across as negative. Like that energy would have come across as something diminishing. It
Mm-hmm.
would have come across as something to make you submit, as something domineering, as something that spoke poorly about you, as something that made you feel guilty or shameful, or, pulled you further into a negative loop,
Mm-hmm.
versus, regardless of what it looks like, what do you feel from it? So if you're able to discern within yourself as a person, anybody who's wanting to get into channeling or any of these intuitive practices, it really would behoove you, I guess you'd say, or it's like we really would encourage you to take the time to be able to discern what feels good to you versus what feels negative to you,
Mm-hmm.
what feels integrative and loving, what feels separative and divisive.
Yeah,
You
sure.
know, like right.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
literally like the main thing, because if you can do that for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
even with the people that are around you in your physical world, then it doesn't matter what comes knocking at your door, because you just like say, oh, you feel it, you go, oh, no, no, not today, sorry, bye, Felicia. And it doesn't have to be a thing,
Yeah.
because if you don't give in to that fear that they're presenting, even after you've investigated and you have confirmed that yes, they are putting off a fear vibe, then you can just go, oh, well, I don't need to fuck around with any of that, bye, Felicia.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't do anything to you,
Mm-hmm.
because you have established your sovereignty.
Yeah.
You are your own being. You are no less powerful than that thing over there. The
Mm-hmm.
only reason it seems as if it's got more power than you is because you've been taught to believe that supernatural things are beyond your control. Supernatural things are uncontrollable. And then on top of that, supernatural's bad, supernatural's dangerous, supernatural's unpredictable, you can't see it. Like you don't even, you wouldn't know what to do with it if you ran into it. All of
Right.
these belief systems that are fear-based belief systems, that if they're still operating if they're operating strongly while you're attempting to channel, that's what's going to bring in those things, because you can't communicate with anything that you're not the vibration of. They can't see you. You just literally just do not exist to them.
Mm-hmm.
Then either way, either side, good or bad, quote unquote.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have the power. You, as a sovereign soul, as an entity, you unto yourself, as a finger of God, are just as powerful as this one. Right? They're all just as powerful as one another,
Yeah.
in that sense. So don't take finger strength as a direct correlation like you guys, right? But the whole idea is that it's part and parcel of the same whole. So it has no more control over you than you allow it to.
Right. And if you go into a place or go into channeling and you're have that mindset and you have that attention of, hey, I'm here, but no one is going to fuck with me.
They can't fuck with you.
Nothing will fuck with you. And if they start, then you go, you crossed my line. You have to leave.
Bye, Felicia. And you can tell. And that's how you know, because you developed that discernment to go, oh, this is how I'm feeling in reaction to that entity's energy.
Right. Right. Because it's
Cool,
going
bye,
to
Felicia.
happen.
And here's the fun part. There's another thing that some of my students get into a little bit, and we'll probably bring this up on Monday, is that they worry too that by in some way that they're going to accidentally turn away a guide that they really need because of what it looks like, much or how it initially feels to them. So much like your dog, where, for instance, if you'd have taken that at face value and hadn't had a level of discernment to be able to go, oh, okay, well, what am I feeling from this? And then even if, for instance, that you had felt some kind of wavering sort of back and forth or a negative energy about it, you could have still said bye Felicia to it.
Mhm.
It would have still gone somewhere out of your field. But if it was indeed a positive guide, it won't give up. It will choose another form. It will come another way. It will try another method of contact. You're not going to miss out on anything. The only way you miss out on stuff is by worrying and spending the time worrying that you're going to miss out on it instead of just being in the moment, because that's when channeling happens. Channeling is a state of being. Like, you're channeling when you're painting, you're channeling when you're dancing, you're channeling when you're playing the piano, you're channeling when you're doing anything that you enjoy to do that you lose time doing, in particular. And you go, oh my God, it only feels like half an hour has gone by, but it's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. What the fuck? You were channeling. You were in the channeling state.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what it feels like. You don't have to be possessed. Nothing takes you over, right? We're talking, I mean, because we're just talking about all the different fears of what comes up, that we hear about channeling,
yeah.
right? So that's one of the major ones.
It's being possessed or being
Is that you have, yeah, it's like you're possessed or, but yeah. And it's like, no.
Well, and then also like the dark side of things,
Right.
Like witchcraft or satanic or whatever
Right.
it is. And it's, if you step back and you look at witchcraft and even look at satanic, like some of that stuff I'm not too,
I know, Frank and I
don't know all the
too.
things about it, so I can't talk, a lot of the occult stuff. But what I can say from my own experience is that you give whatever power you give to it. Whether, if you want to look at demonics as evil and horrible, then that's how you're going to perceive it, and that's the power you give it. If you give witchcraft that kind of power, then
right.
You give that power away in a sense of not dropping your guard. Well, you kind of.
Well, it's not about dropping your guard. It's about considering yourself a lesser being than that thing that's coming towards you.
Right.
It's about self-worth.
Yes. And knowing your own fields and how you can expand that out and contract that in.
Correct.
Can you do that? And that's where you want to start. I can tell when something is, when I go out hiking, I put my field out and I go, oh, I feel there's somebody behind me. And I turn around, I might not see anybody. And I'll sit there and wait. And then there's two hikers coming around. Like, oh, there they are. All right, cool. That's all. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Right. I put my field out because I'm aware. I make myself aware.
Right. And just because you feel something with your spidey sense does not necessarily mean you're in danger.
Right. Like,
but see, that's one of those things. That's one of those things that's like part of our mainstream underlying unconscious societal thing where it's like, okay, great, we've had these, we have these superheroes, and one of them's literally got an intuitive, what they call spidey sense, but it only ever goes off when things are bad. It only ever goes off when things are wrong.
Right. No.
So if I have a spidey sense, then that probably means the same thing, right?
Yeah. It's whatever you give,
and that's where people get confused.
Right. It's taking the bias out of it, right? You gotta take that good or bad, right or wrong, negative, positive, black or white out of it. Because you don't, if you want to channel and you want to open up to that other realms, then you need to be willing to talk and communicate and not be at that level.
Right.
They'll come to you.
Yep.
They'll come to you when you set your boundaries and your intentions and you go, this is how it is. I'm
This
not
is
going
what
to
I want
play
to play
this
with.
or that.
Yep.
You are going to be respectful for me, and I'm going to be respectful for you.
Correct.
I'm not pulling from you. Don't be pulling from me.
Right. This is the sandbox that we're playing in. If you would like
Right.
to play with me in my sandbox, we'll be over here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And of course, you have full autonomy at any time to kick anybody out of your sandbox that you'd like.
Yes, of course.
And then, of course, the best thing about it is that if they are, in fact, a real guide, they will attempt alternate ways of communicating with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because your guides, your ancestors, your higher self, other versions of yourself, past, future lives, right? The consciousness of those. Let's be super duper duper crystal clear. None of those are ever intentionally trying to scare you.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. That is like the last thing on their agenda. In fact, it doesn't even exist on their agenda because what would be the point?
Right.
You asked them to help guide you before you incarnated, so here they are trying to assist you. So what on earth point would there be for them to try and scare you to do it? Like to put you into a fear frame of mind, which only locks you down further and keeps you from following your joy and keeps you from following your inspiration and all of these things that they're trying to get you to like lean into. So it's
Right.
literally so counterproductive. Like I can't even put into words how counterproductive it is to them. So if, for instance, your dog, going back to that, or even my situation, if I had been like, you know what, you guys, this is too much for me. I don't think I can handle this. They'd have been like, oh, okay, cool, we'll be back.
Right. Yep. They'd back down, and they would
Queens.
try it a different way.
And they would have come back a different way.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
And just like the dog, like if you had actual issue with the way that entity had looked, in the sense that you just could not, like your belief systems were just not letting you move past that, because it was an actual guide, they would have at some point chosen another form
Mm-hmm.
to come to you.
Yeah.
It might have been similar, but it would be different enough to, in its attempt to remove your fear response to it.
Right.
So if you are getting anything repetitively that's causing you fear, that's something that you can then immediately discern and go, bye, Felicia. I caught you. Nice try, though.
Yeah.
And the second you treat them like that, like, oh, what the hell? Oh, I see you. Oh, nice try. And you don't get like, you don't go into victim mode. You don't go into fear mode. You don't go into why me.
Or anger.
Or anger, right? Like, how dare you, right? If you just go, oh, all right, get out of here. Bye, Felicia. Gotcha. And they'd be like, ah. They can't do anything. They cannot do anything further to you because you have identified them. They can't do, like they can't do it because you have then asserted your sovereignty.
Right.
As an arm of God, as the finger, as the co-finger of God, just along with them, you have asserted your sovereignty, and you go, oh, well, I can't do anything now.
Right. And it's a chance for you too to, even if that entity gives you that fear and it catches you off guard, it's also giving them like a gratitude. We're like, oh wow, thanks for showing me that you scared me. But okay, good
Right.
one on you.
Yeah.
Good job. Oh, that was a good one.
Oh, you got me.
But guess what?
Yeah.
Not playing.
Yeah, right. That's another great way to go about it. Humor.
Yeah. Humor. Absolutely. Love, like being in a, like, what's that from Myra from Tiny Toon Adventures?
Oh my God, it's been so long.
I know. Well, they remade it on Hulu, so my kid's been watching it. But it's just so funny. She's got this little bow with like a skull on it, but she's like, yes. Oh, I love you and hug you and squeeze you and and it's like,
yeah.
totally do that. Like, oh, I love you. Thank you for the money. And they'll be like, oh, fuck.
They're like, I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. I don't like this.
Oh, God. You can scare that
You can
thing.
scare them. Yeah, with love. I know,
Love.
it's hysterical.
Promise. It's worked. Oh, boy.
Oh, they hate it.
They're like,
oh, they hate it. Oh, yeah. They're actually banking on being able to scare you and make you mad or upset because that's what they feed off of.
Yeah.
Those negative ones.
Yeah.
If you're even bringing those into your field, which I want to go into another point about that in a second. But like you said, if you just go, ha ha, good one, or approach them with love and go, oh my God, you totally got me. You are the best. Oh my God, get over here, you little fucker. Get over here, you little fucker. I'm just gonna squeeze you. Oh, look at those little reptile cheeks. Look at them cheeks. Oh, they're gonna be like, okay, now what the actual? All right, we're not doing with this. We're going out of here. They don't like it because it's not their frequency that they feed on.
Yeah.
So they're gonna immediately back away because they know they can't mess with you anymore. It's like very traditional bully type.
Yeah. You just gotta reverse it. Oh, so you just gotta reverse it and just go, oh, okay, I'm gonna kill it and give you all the love in the world because maybe that's what you need. Daniella's having a heart attack. I'm just kidding. And she's releasing her own demons.
I'm releasing my own demons. I heard, don't mind me.
I think that's one thing that has saved me of like being funny about it and being very sarcastic and being like, oh, they're like, it's like, oh, this is good. This is fun. Yes, give me.
You start having fun with the things that are trying to make you fearful. When you turn it around and put it on your terms.
Yep.
Do the humor, do the sarcasm, do the love. It is all you reasserting your sovereignty over yourself.
Yeah.
You have chosen to respond in a particular way that is not reactionary. You are taking your own response. You have asserted your sovereignty.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
And they can't do anything.
Yeah, no, they can't.
And they don't want to because they want the easy meal. So they're going to go to Joe Blow down the street that's constantly complaining about the president, constantly complaining about taxes and gas, constantly complaining about COVID, constantly. There's always something wrong. They're going to go to that guy because it's way easier to feed off of that dude than it is to fuck around with you.
Yeah.
Let's be real. They're all just vultures in the sense that they're all just scavengers. That's just like, and don't get mad at the wolf for being a wolf because that's just what a wolf is.
Exactly. I think that's another thing too. Of when you learn to not fear something that looks like a big bad wolf, and you go, wait, am I in there? Like, where are you? Where are they? Are you in their house?
Right.
Okay, hey, I see you, but or whatever it is, like you just have to really just know that you can't take away your power. They can't take your power away.
No. And again, the only way, not the only way. That's what I wanted to share. Let me back it up half a second before I started dying.
Ooh, good one.
Thank you. For instance, if you're going down your path and you run into, as part of your channeling journey, or like, for instance, what shows up for me is literally like a giant meeting table, in like a poker room. And that's like my channeling setting when I go up there, like that's the visualization that comes to mind. So pretty much anything and everything can come to the table if it's going to play by my rules. Just because you have something negative, quote unquote negative, or that is trying to elicit a fear response in you, if just because you have something like that show up all of a sudden during your journey, that does not mean that you are always necessarily staying in negativity.
Right.
That does not mean that you are not doing your work. That does not necessarily mean that you're doing anything wrong. None of that. Because in those cases, what's happening is that you have contracted said thing, higher you has contracted said thing to come in and see how you'll react.
Mm-hmm.
You are literally just gently testing yourself, because it's like, okay, you say you've changed. You say that you have this new perspective on this thing or this idea. Let's prove it to ourselves how true it actually is.
Right.
See where we're at. Do a little barometer test. So it'll throw, so it'll contract some big fucking ugly, to come make a ruckus, talk some shit. And if you just go, okay, who the actual fuck are you? What are you doing here? Huh? Like, if you don't feed into it,
Mm-hmm.
then it's not like it's going to stay. But just by I want to try and make it clear for those that are beginning and continuing to go through this process as they learn to channel, is that even if something that's you quote unquote don't objectively prefer to interact with shows up on occasion, that doesn't mean that you yourself have been necessarily caught back up in a loop or anything. It's just you trying to test yourself, see
Right.
where you're at, see if you really don't have any negative reactions to these. Because then if you really don't have any negative reaction to it, there's no reason for it to ever show up again. Because that means that you figured it out. You figured that bit out. There's no reason to further test yourself in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
But it will keep coming up if you keep feeding into it.
Right.
But just because it shows up initially doesn't necessarily, I think, like we were talking about in the last podcast, just because somebody, family, friend, or whatever, pops up into your world and is a negative influence, does not mean that it's a one-to-one mirror reflection of who you are and what you
Right.
are, what state you're in. It could literally just be a little mini test. It's like a pop quiz.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nothing to be afraid of if you just recognize it for what it is and go, oh, well, this must be a quiz or something. Oh, okay. So what's up?
Yeah.
I think if you start to approach all your life like that, then it really starts making it really simple,
Mm-hmm.
because it is that sovereignty.
Yep.
There was something about too. We were talking about before. Oh, the whole idea of like surrounding yourself in the white light.
Yes.
Necessary or unnecessary?
We can briefly talk about it, I think. I think it's, yeah, about if
Oh
we,
yeah. Super brief. I just realized what time it was.
yeah, if the one, like the keeping yourself in this big globe of white light keeps you kind of stagnant in a way too, of what I've said earlier of knowing your own energy field.
Mm.
It's not that I don't go around going, oh, I'm free, but I know my energy field and I know if something's leaking out of it. I know where I'm at. Wherever I'm at, if I'm going into a channel, I take my circle and I have my guides and I go, okay, this is what's going on. I got my intentions and blah, blah, or even if I'm out on a hike and I've been attacked out on a hike of like, this, what is I,
Right.
and I go, oh, where am I? Like it happens anywhere. So keeping yourself in a castle with like a moat, like you said,
Moat
around
around
it,
it. Yeah.
you keep everything out. So then you don't get to grow and expand and learn the different energies, because those energies are there to also help and teach you, and are some way, if they come to you, can be an aspect of yourself.
Right.
So you're keeping yourself away from yourself. So,
That's
I
definitely
mean,
true too.
yeah. So it's like, it's
And
something
in
you have
some,
to learn to play with.
yeah, because I could say it definitely for some. I know it's part of their practice, and it's just like part of the visualization process that they go
Mhm.
through. But for others, they've been taught to do that in fear.
Right.
You
And
know,
you don't
like
want fear
with
around
a
it.
lot of the spiritual, what is it? Like a lot of the things that get taught is like, oh, well, you've got to encase yourself in the white light so that nothing can get to you while you go astral traveling or while you channel or whatever, right? There's always that thing about, it's like protecting yourself with the white light. It's like, from a certain perspective, going that extra mile to encase yourself in such a castle with a moat is literally like putting a giant come fuck with me flag on.
Yeah.
And not in all cases, but
No.
it depends on how you're using this. Because if you are erecting that
Mhm.
force field, if you are erecting that white light field out of fear that you're going to be attacked, if you don't, guess what will happen?
Right.
But if you just put it up as part of your visualization of getting into your space, of aligning your own frequency with the frequency of light or whatever you use it for, then that's an entirely different story. But I
Hmm.
do know so many people, a lot of students, they're like, should we do the white light thing? I've always heard you have to do the white light thing or you're going to get attacked. Really? I haven't been doing the white light thing my whole life.
Well, I started with
Well,
it,
you have. Exactly.
but I would say that my dog did show me some things and guides and learning the energies of stuff of what am I blocking, what am I keeping, what am going through those things of like, and I don't, there is a way that I check in with myself and before I do it, but I don't like worry or stress or
Right.
fear
You're not
going
trying to
into
use it as a
something.
protective shield against anything that's going to come and combat you.
Right, because I know whatever's going to come to my table or into my fields is that I'm going to
Play by
learn
your
from
rules.
them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're going to play by my rules and I'm going to learn. We're going to learn from each other.
Mm-hmm.
There's that share, right?
Right.
I'm not
And
overpowering. I'm not
right.
taking anything.
Right.
So it's really a practice.
Yeah.
And you have to just be, and set your boundaries of where you want to be. Because not everybody wants to be that open.
Right. Some people
And
only
that's
want,
okay
yeah,
too.
select your channel. Some people, whatever it is that's most exciting for you as an individual. But yeah, definitely just be mindful then
Yeah.
of even for instance, even the techniques that we have traditionally in the spiritual community been taught are the positive practices that you have to do because there is this negative element. So much of the time, you've got to really check in with that and where you're coming from using a lot of these tools that were shared and translated and all the rest, because the way in which they were translated initially has led to a lot of fear surrounding them, which ends up creating them as a tool in an opposite way in which you intend.
Right. It's whose belief system are you following?
Right. So just keep those kinds of things in mind and realize again that you are your own sovereign.
Mm-hmm.
Sovereign means ruler, queen, king.
Yep.
All the land you see before you, Simba, is yours. Okay? Right? You create your own reality. You
Yeah,
create and
absolutely.
allow what interacts with you ultimately, and what doesn't. and how you interact with it and respond to it determines whether or not it's going to stick around in your life more or not.
Yeah.
And it can
You
be as
have
simple as
a
that.
choice.
Yeah, you have a choice. It can be as simple as that. So
Mhm.
there really is nothing to fear but fear itself.
Yep.
And then not even that's to anything to fear because, well, it's just a frequency.
Yeah,
It's just a
it is
choice.
the state of mind.
It's a state of mind. So don't be necessarily encouching yourself in any sort of fear beliefs as you go to practice your channeling or any of your intuitive gifts. And just check in with yourself. As Dallas said, just check in, regardless of what spiritual tool or practice or meditation or whatever you use to get there. Just check in and see how you're using it, where that's coming from,
Right.
emotionally. You know what I mean? Like where it's coming from energetically, from you. And that'll tell you everything you need. You know, like that will give you the barometer.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be scary, and it doesn't have to be hard. You do it naturally anyway. Remember when you paint, when you draw, when you know, stare at a bird out the window and get really mesmerized by how pretty it is. I mean, you're in a channeling state. That's it. Doesn't have to be any scarier than that. Right? So hopefully this helped relieve and bring to light, shine some light on some of those fears so that they're not so scary anymore.
Big monsters.
If y'all have any questions out there about this, please always feel free to drop them below in the comments. We are on Anchor, Spotify. The video recordings of this are on YouTube. Oh yes, and we're on Apple Play, and we have a Facebook, so you can come connect with us in a whole lot of ways. Do like, subscribe, and share if this was helpful for you. We appreciate y'all and all your love. And yeah, if there are any other questions that you have, again, regarding this or any of the other topics that we've covered or something completely new, always feel free to drop it down below, because we love answering your questions and really gearing our podcast towards the kind of information that you guys want to know about this kind of stuff. Yeah, like totally. So in that vein, have a great rest of your day, guys. From your two favorite channelers over here to y'all. Go enjoy, go play. And again, just remember, it doesn't have to be fearful. If it's fearful, bye, Felicia.
With love.
With love, yeah, bye. Bye, Felicia, with love. Oh man, too many references on this one. But yes, so thank you guys for joining us. We hope you enjoyed it and it helped you. Like, subscribe, share, and all the wonderful things. And we will see you next time.